Hello and welcome back to another video tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. This is a render I recently made, a snowy Arctic scene with a couple of explorers trudging through the snow. And after I had finished rendering it, I wanted to create a greater sense of realism and have them make some tracks here in the snow. And I could have done this in View by editing the terrain, but of course I would have to find exactly what area of the terrain that I was going to place the figures on and very delicately carve away some of the terrain with one of the terrain brushes. And then when I was done, I'd have to render it, see what effect I did, and then go back and then render it again, and then go back and modify it again. And it would be rather time consuming, and there would really be no guarantee that what I ended up with would be what I wanted. So I decided I wanted to create this realistic look here in Photoshop. So I'd like to share with you the technique I use to create this very realistic looking track here in the snow. So I'm going to open up Photoshop here, and this is the undoctored raw render straight from View. And I'm going to start off by creating a new layer, and I'm going to come over to my paint brushes. Here, select my brush. I'm going to come up here to my brush palette, and the technique that I'm going to use here will probably work just as well with any other painting program, because nothing that I am using here in Photoshop is exclusive to Photoshop. I do know that Photo Paint has a very good paint brush engine, and I believe Paint Shop Pro does as well. They're really good for painting. So nothing I do here is going to be exclusive to Photoshop. You can do what I'm doing here with probably any other paint program. So in Photoshop, I'm going to choose brush 11. Any other similar type of scatter brush would work just as well, but I'm going to choose number 11. I'm going to come over here to Shape Dynamics. Under Size Jitter, I'll set that up to maybe about 50%. Now I'm using a Wacom tablet and a pressure sensitive pen, so I want to set the control of this to pin pressure. Angle jitter, I want this all the way up, and again set it to pin pressure. Roundness jitter, I'll set that to 100% and pin pressure. Minimum roundness, I want that at 0. Scattering, I want it at about 175, both axes, and set at pin pressure. Count 0, count jitter 100%, set at pin pressure. Other dynamics, I want the opacity set at 100 and set to pin pressure. Now using a white color, I'm just going to create a test stroke here and see what effect I've got. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to bring the opacity up to about 70%. Okay, I like that. I'm going to undo all that. Now, to create a convincing looking deep trail through the snow, all we are doing is creating the illusion of light and dark. Because this snow material has no texture to it, it's just light and shaded areas, all we need to do is manipulate the colors here to create the illusion of these intrepid explorers trudging through very deep snow. So with my pen, I'm just going to start painting a path here that these folks would have made going through this deep snow. And I've been through deep snow before, only because I lost my skis in deep powder and had to make my way up the mountain to retrieve them out of the snow and put them back on my boots. And I remember one year I looked back down the hill and you didn't see nice little footprints like you would see if you're walking along the beach. Instead, what I saw was just this very messy, deep trench because of because the snow was so soft and so deep. You really had to lift your feet up high in order to unbury them with each step. And the result was I just left this very messy trail. And so remembering that, it made creating this illusion very convincing. So you got several people walking along here, and I'm creating just this random looking mess here because I do know from experience that it's kind of difficult to walk in a straight line when you're trying to make your way through this through deep soft snow. So maybe they stopped along here and looked out over the edge over this deep hole, and maybe they started walking side by side here and then changed up and then started walking in single file here, and then this guy branched off and decided to check out things over here. And I just want to create the illusion that these guys are not like a bunch of marching ants, but rather are making making their own way through here. And oops, that's it. That is a little dark. I think what I will do is uncheck some of these options and paint some snow on their feet so that it looks like their feet are somewhat buried in all this rather than walking on top of it. They're walking through it. Okay, I'm not gonna come all the way down here because you'll get the idea. All right, that's my snow trail. What I want to do is I want to duplicate this layer. I'm going to hide my top one. I'm going to select my bottom one. What I want to do is come up here to Image, Adjustments, and Hue and Saturation. Let me cancel this. I want to zoom in here. All right, Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. I'm going to click on the Colorize button. Now, just so I can see more immediately the effect that I'm having on this snow layer here, I'm going to bring the brightness down and kick the saturation up a little bit. Now what I want to do is color this layer so that it is the same as the coloring of the shadows that already exist in my scene. So I've got this as a good guide, and so I'm just going to find a snow color that resembles the color of the shadows that already exist in my scene. And let me bring the lightness, adjust the lightness, and I think that that might be pretty good. Come back to my white layer, and let me zoom out a little bit. You can't really see anything because the white snow layer is directly on top of my shadow layer, but all I'm going to do is use my arrow keys and watch the immediate effect that it has. And all I've done is just offset the white layer from the dark layer, and look at the very convincing results. I know the further you offset it, the illusion of the snow being deeper is, but I think in this particular case, if I offset it too much, I won't like the results. So I'm just going to play around with offsetting it, and actually I think I want to move the white one this direction because it creates the shadow now on the left side of this trail, which would be consistent with the light source that already exists in my scene. So I like that. Let me zoom out and unselect that layer. And so that is creating a very convincing looking snow layer, snow trail here in Photoshop. And again, this would work just as well with any other paint program. So hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can benefit from using this technique. So thanks for watching here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. Have a good day.